In the ancient kingdom of Kosala, there was a forest that no traveler dared to cross. Whispers filled the villages of a ruthless bandit who haunted the roads, leaving behind terror and lifeless bodies. His name struck fear in the hearts of men, women, and children alike. Angulimala, the killer with a garland of severed fingers around his neck. He was not born cruel. Once he had been a bright student, full of promise, under the guidance of a renowned teacher. But jealousy and deceit twisted his destiny. Misled into believing that he must kill 1,000 people to attain mastery, he descended into bloodshed. Each finger he took became a symbol of his madness, strung together in a grisly necklace. The forest became his domain, the cries of innocence his shadow. The king sent soldiers, but none could capture him. He was swift, cunning, and merciless. To the villagers, Angulimala became less a man and more a demon in human form. Yet in this darkness, destiny was weaving a different path. For even the most hardened heart can be touched by compassion, and even the fiercest storm eventually bows before the light. This is the story of Angulimala, not as a murderer, but as a man transformed by the Dharma, forever proving that redemption is possible, even for the most lost soul. Before he became Angulimala, his name was Ahimsaka, meaning the harmless one. Born into a noble family, he showed great intelligence and a gentle nature. As a young man, he was sent to study under a learned teacher who saw in him extraordinary potential. But not all around him celebrated his brilliance. Fellow students grew envious, poisoning the teacher's mind with lies. They whispered that Ahimsaka disrespected him, that he sought to surpass and dishonor his master. Blinded by jealousy and resentment, the teacher conceived a cruel plan of revenge. Disguised as a spiritual test, he commanded Ahimsaka to prove his loyalty by collecting the fingers of 1,000 humans. Deceived and bound by obedience, Ahimsaka believed it was his sacred duty. He resisted at first, horrified by the thought. But the teacher's manipulative words convinced him that only through this bloody ritual could he attain true knowledge. Torn between morality and duty, his heart grew heavy. Eventually, his trust in his teacher overshadowed his conscience, and he gave in. Thus began the path of Angulimala, the garland of fingers. In his desperate attempt to please his master, he stepped into darkness, unaware of the karmic weight he was bringing upon himself. His transformation was not born from hatred, but from ignorance and blind loyalty, a reminder of how misguided faith can lead even the purest heart astray. As days turned into months, Ahimsaka's deeds grew darker. With each victim he struck down, he hardened his heart, burying the gentle soul he once was. Fear spread like wildfire across the land. Villages locked their gates at dusk, merchants abandoned trade routes, and pilgrims halted their sacred journeys. The roads that once connected the kingdom became deserted paths of silence. Soon, Ahimsaka was no longer known by his birth name. The people renamed him Angulimala, the garland of fingers. Around his neck, he carried his gruesome trophies, a necklace that grew heavier with every life he stole. Mothers lulled their children to sleep with warnings, "Behave or Angulimala will come for you." Kings and ministers trembled, but none dared to face him. To the people, he was beyond redemption, a monster clothed in human flesh. Yet deep inside Angulimala, a faint spark of doubt lingered. Late at night, when the forest grew silent, he wondered whether his path was truly righteous. But pride and fear shackled him. He could not turn back. He had killed too many, shed too much blood. The image of his teacher's approval haunted him, driving him further into madness. His life had become a river of violence, carrying him swiftly toward a fate he could not yet see. The Dharma, however, was already moving to meet him. News of Angulimala's atrocities reached the royal court. The king of Kosala could not stand idle as his people lived in terror. Gathering his ministers and generals, he spoke of sending an army to capture or kill the bandit. But even his strongest warriors feared the man who slaughtered without hesitation. The king himself was torn. On one hand, Angulimala had committed countless crimes and deserved punishment. On the other, he had once been a citizen, a son of noble parents, a man of promise. Could such a life be completely beyond salvation? As the court debated, whispers spread that Angulimala's body count was nearing 1,000, the dreadful number that marked the end of his ritual. If he succeeded, who could imagine the darkness he would unleash? Yet, unknown to the king, another figure had already set out to confront the bandit, not with swords or shields, but with compassion and wisdom. That figure was the Buddha, the enlightened one, who saw Angulimala not as a monster, but as a man lost in delusion. Where armies would bring bloodshed, the Buddha would bring peace. Where punishment would bring resentment, the Dharma would bring transformation. The stage was set for a meeting that would change not only Angulimala's life, but also the way humanity understands redemption. One morning, the Buddha took his alms bowl and walked calmly toward the forest where Angulimala lurked. Villagers cried out in alarm, begging him to turn back. "Do not go there, Blessed One. Angulimala will surely kill you." But the Buddha simply smiled. His compassion knew no fear. Each step he took was steady, like a flame that does not flicker in the wind. Meanwhile, Angulimala stood watching from a distance, his eyes filled with murderous intent. He had grown accustomed to the fear of others, but here was a man walking without hesitation, without trembling, without turning away. Intrigued and enraged, Angulimala decided that this lone monk would be his next victim, the next finger for his necklace. With weapon in hand, he rushed forward, ready to strike. But something strange happened. No matter how fast he ran, he could not catch up to the Buddha, who walked slowly, gracefully, step by step. Breathless and bewildered, Angulimala shouted, "Stop, monk, stop!" The Buddha turned his head and replied calmly, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." These words pierced deeper than any sword. For the first time, Angulimala felt the weight of his deeds pressing on his soul. The Buddha's words echoed in Angulimala's heart. "I have stopped. It is you who have not stopped." Confused, Angulimala demanded an explanation. The Buddha's voice was calm yet firm. "I have stopped causing harm to living beings. I walk in peace and compassion in the path of truth. But you, Angulimala, have not stopped your violence, your cruelty, your ignorance." Each word struck like a bell ringing in the silence of his soul. For the first time in years, Angulimala saw himself clearly, not as a noble student, not as a loyal disciple, but as a murderer who had lost his way. His knees grew weak, his weapon slipped from his hand, and tears welled in his eyes. "Can there be hope for someone like me?" he whispered. The Buddha looked at him with boundless compassion. "Every being has the potential for awakening. No matter how far one has strayed, the Dharma can bring them back to the path of truth." Overwhelmed, Angulimala fell at the Buddha's feet and begged to be accepted as a disciple. The forest that once echoed with screams now bore witness to silence, the silence of surrender, the silence of a man reborn. In that moment, Angulimala laid down not just his weapon, but the weight of his past. The transformation of Angulimala was nothing short of miraculous. Once feared as a ruthless killer, he now shaved his head, donned the simple robes of a monk, and walked beside the Buddha as a disciple. Yet his journey was far from easy. Wherever he went, people spat at him, hurled stones, and shouted curses. Mothers shielded their children from him, men clenched their fists in anger. For them, he was still the murderer who had stolen their loved ones. Angulimala endured their hatred silently. He did not fight back, nor did he complain. The Buddha reminded him, "Just as the rain falls on all, good and evil alike, so must your compassion flow without discrimination." Slowly, Angulimala's heart softened. He began to meditate deeply, cultivating loving kindness toward those he had wronged. His robes, stained with dust and blood from angry mobs, became symbols of his penance. He accepted their anger as the rightful fruit of his past karma. And yet each day he grew closer to peace. His transformation was not about erasing his past, but about meeting it with wisdom, humility, and compassion. In time, even those who once hated him began to marvel at the change. Truly, the Dharma had turned a demon into a monk. One day, as Angulimala walked for alms, he came upon a woman suffering in childbirth. Her cries of agony pierced the air, and the people around her panicked, unsure of what to do. Filled with compassion, Angulimala turned to the Buddha for guidance. The Blessed One instructed him, "Go to her and speak these words. Sister, since I was born into the noble life of a monk, I have never intentionally harmed a living being. By this truth, may you and your child be safe." Angulimala hesitated. His past as a murderer haunted him. How could his words carry any power, knowing the blood he had spilled? But the Buddha's wisdom was deeper than doubt. When Angulimala approached the woman and spoke the verse, something remarkable happened. The woman's pain eased, and her child was safely delivered. This moment became known as the Angulimala Parita, a blessing of truth that continues to be recited even today. Through this act, Angulimala not only saved lives, but also proved that even one burdened with the heaviest karma can still bring light into the world. Forgiveness was no longer just something he sought from others. It became something he offered through his transformed life. As years passed, Angulimala became a living testament to the transformative power of the Dharma. He remained humble, never denying his bloody past, but using it as a reminder of the dangers of ignorance and blind obedience. His presence became a teaching in itself. If even Angulimala could find peace, then no one was beyond redemption. Yet his path was never without hardship. Villagers continued to mistrust him, and sometimes mobs still attacked him. But Angulimala bore it all with patience, practicing the Buddha's teaching of non-retaliation. Slowly, hearts began to soften. People saw not the murderer, but the monk who endured suffering without bitterness, who helped the weak, who radiated compassion. His life became a mirror reflecting the Buddha's truth, that hatred can only be overcome by love, that suffering can only be healed through compassion. In monasteries and villages alike, his story was told to inspire hope. Angulimala's transformation revealed that no chain of karma is unbreakable, and no darkness too deep for the light of Dharma to penetrate. His name, once a curse, became a reminder of spiritual rebirth. The story of Angulimala continues to echo across centuries as one of the most powerful examples of transformation in Buddhist history. His life shows us that redemption is never out of reach, that even the most broken soul can find healing through compassion and wisdom. The Buddha did not see Angulimala as a murderer, but as a man trapped in delusion. Through this vision of boundless compassion, he revealed the greatest truth, that every being has the seed of enlightenment within them. Today, the Angulimala Parita is still chanted in Buddhist traditions as a blessing for protection and safe childbirth. It is a reminder that truth, once spoken with sincerity, carries power to heal. Angulimala's journey from killer to monk teaches us that the past does not define the future. Each moment is an opportunity to stop, to awaken, to choose a new path. As we reflect on his story, may we remember that compassion is stronger than hatred, and forgiveness more enduring than vengeance. For if even Angulimala could find peace, so too can we. This is the legacy of transformation through Dharma, the power to turn darkness into light.